What's up, everybody? Welcome. I just this time I wanted to talk about the game by myself because there was a lot of things that I've seen going on with the 49ers. Some things that I scratched my head on and basically said, "What the hell is going on here?" Um, so let's go ahead and get into it with the 49ers offense. That right side of the offensive line, it was bad. It was really bad, starting from the center position to the right guard to right tackle. And I don't understand what's going on with the musical chairs at the right guard position between McKivitz and Compton. Uh, I noticed McKivitz's first rep in the game, the chemistry, it was off between that right side of the offensive line. It seemed like they weren't communicating very well. And they just need to either go with one guy or the other. My preference would be to go with McKivitz because you invested in a fifth round pick in him compared to Compton, who's a journeyman veteran, and he's probably not going to be on this team next year because he hasn't looked good at all this year. So give the rookie a chance to show himself and possibly be a starter in the league. You've hit on some fifth round picks in the past with George Kittle and Drake Greenwell. So why not try and hit on another one and give McKivitz that opportunity? And I know everyone's going to say with Nick Mullins, he's not the type of quarterback that's going to come down a double score deficit. He's not going to come back from it. Well, you know who's not going to help the quarterback to come back from it? It's going to be right tackle Mike McGlinchey. That guy cannot hold the pass block no matter who's rushing off of the edge. And I could care less what his PFF grade is because that's just a computerized opinion. That's how I see PFF. It's basically no difference from what someone's Madden rating is. No one is going to go into contract negotiations and get paid higher because of their PFF grade. That's the same as an agent going into contract negotiations and saying, hey, this is my player's Madden rating. Front offices don't care about that. So I can care less about his PFF run grade and where he ranks with the other tackles in the NFL because he's a tackle. You need a pass block. And if this 49ers team is down two scores, you're asking McGlinchey to pass block, and it's just not going to happen. And that's very sad to say for someone who was a ninth overall pick um, with this franchise. And I know some people, he's had his moments to where some people want to just keep giving him a chance. If that was my decision, I would be looking for a replacement at right tackle just because, like I said, if you're down two scores, it's going to make the quarterback job a whole lot harder to get back in the game, complete passes downfield, if your right tackle cannot hold the block for longer than 2 seconds. And then with the running backs, Shanahan kind of got away from it. I understand because his post-game presser basically stated he thought this was going to be a situation like the New Orleans Saints last season where it was just a straight shootout. Okay, I understand that. You have weapons in Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Jordan Reed, to where you could possibly get in shootouts. I get that. So the running backs didn't really get those reps. I thought Jeff Wilson looked good during his opportunity to run the ball. And I thought Raheem Mostert had his moments depending on if those holes were available based on the offensive line play. So I think the running backs did a really solid job. I would have liked to see them continue to run the ball a little more. In my opinion, personally, Mostert needs to get a minimum of 10 carries per game. If you're not giving Raheem Mostert 10 carries, then there's something wrong with the play design. There's something wrong in the game. And that's what happened. 49ers got destroyed. And so there was definitely something wrong. But he needs to get more carries. The same thing with Jeff Wilson. He needs to get more carries. And the running back play was fine. I thought they picked up some blitzes pretty well. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Mostert, to where they blitzed Matt Milano from the inside, and he just basically had concrete feet, and he did not get moved. and it was a great pitch. So I think they did a better job than Mike McGlinchey did in pass pro. So I was happy with the running back performance. As far as with the wide receivers, uh, something we need to understand is Brandon Ayuk is a rookie. Before this game, we haven't really seen him bobble any passes, and he had a tough bobble that led to an interception. Okay, he's a rookie playing on his first career Monday night game. This guy came from a JUCO not too long ago. If he has a bobble pass in a big stage, that's just a part of the development. I saw some negative tweets out there basically saying, "Oh, Brandon Ayuk, that's not Nick Mullins' fault. Brandon, the guy's a rookie. Relax. He's already shown he is gonna be a stud in this league. So just because he had some bobble passes on a Monday night, okay, he's gonna learn from it. That's just the part of the development in his game. He also had a touchdown on Monday night as well. So let's not ignore that factor. And with Deebo Samuel, I think the most frustrating thing was where was the pitch passes all game? Basically, that Rams game style play calling, where was that all game? That's something I said before this game on my Niners Nation co-host podcast, is that they need to continue to run a horizontal offense, continue to call that play design. And if you're running that style of offense, that's going to include Deebo Samuel on the end arounds, on the pitch passes that go under passing yards, but they're realistically extensions of the run game. They need to involve that in order to keep this offense going, because Nick Mullins ain't it. You can't have much of a vertical offense because that's not what your quarterback, and especially some of your offensive line, they're not going to allow that, a vertical offense. It's just going to open up a window to get sacked, basically, or create a whole lot of pressure on the quarterback. And if not everyone's Josh Allen, that can make things happen when they're under pressure. So I needed to see that more from Deebo. He wasn't really involved. Kyle Shanahan post game basically said, based on how they were playing Deebo on some of the reads, it just wasn't there. That's why he wasn't involved too much in the first 3 quarters. So what? If that's the read in his route running, so what? Give him a pitch pass then. If the read's not there downfield, give the guy a pitch pass. He needs to be involved in this offensive game, especially if you want to keep the Bills offense on the sideline. Keep them on the sideline. Deebo's going to extend drives down the field. A 2nd and 6, a 2nd and 7 should always go to Deebo. 3rd and 4, go to Deebo on one of these end arounds. And it was just real demoralizing not seeing that after the game he just had against the Rams. Should have continued that. I would have loved to see that involvement. And hey, I'm not playing fantasy this year, so it's not out of my benefit to have Deebo get the ball in his hands. It's not in my benefit. But it worked against the Rams twice, which Brandon Staley is a stud defensive coordinator. And then it worked against basically the greatest coach ever, and Bill Belichick. He couldn't figure out a way to stop that horizontal offense either. But then this game here, things got a little more vertical. Obviously, Shanahan knows a lot more than me, so I'm not calling out Shanahan on this. But where is it? It needed to be involved a whole lot more than it was this game, and I think that was the downfall, basically. And with Nick Mullins, I think he was okay. He was good when the game was still a game, basically. But once the game started getting into that 2-score, 3-score area, he kind of just folded. Kind of just try to force things that was not there. And that's just not a good mixture of everything. He's a backup quarterback in the NFL. So like I can't really fault him too much because he's not a guy who's supposed to be a starter. He's not a guy that's supposed to basically take over for Jimmy Garoppolo. That's not who he is. He is a backup quarterback in the NFL. So to expect him to have two, three score lead deficits and come back from it, it's not really expected. If it happens, great. But if it doesn't happen every single time, okay, yeah, he's a backup. I'm not going to fault him too much for trying to force things. He was okay early on in the game when it was close, but he's not going to come back from these big deficits. And like I said, Mike McGlinchey is not going to allow Mullins or even if Jimmy Garoppolo's back there to come back from these deficits because they're just going to stack their best defensive pass rusher on McGlinchey's side and say, handle him. They could even work a twist and have a defensive tackle come in on McGlinchey, and he'll probably overpower him as well. So I think that's just what it is with Nick Mullins. If Jimmy Garoppolo was playing quarterback, obviously Jimmy Garoppolo's way step higher than Nick Mullins. But the 49ers still probably lose this game because it just wasn't there offensively. They got outcoached on both sides of the ball. So let's talk about it. Defense. What? What? Top 6 defense, and it was just dominated. They created some pressures in this game, but if you don't get home on those pressures, you're not taking Josh Allen to the ground, then what great does it really do? Because then you're putting Josh Allen in a successful situation, basically a situation he wants to be in, by extending those plays, by allowing someone to be downfield and basically run across the other side of the field and be wide open, and Josh Allen's going to hit him because these corners could only cover so long. That's something we need to understand with the secondary. You can only cover somebody for so long. So if you're not getting home on those pressures, I'm not sure what their pass block win rate is. If you're interested in the analytics, I could really care less about that percentage. I go with more what my eyes tell me. And the 49ers were getting there. It's just they weren't taking them down. And I think that's where you miss a Nick Bosa, you miss a Dee Ford. And when they didn't get there, he could have built like 5 houses with the time he had. It was just terrible execution on getting your hands on the quarterback and taking him down. I understand he's a different breed, but there may be ways to get around that. You can't tell me that Josh Allen never gets hit or he never gets it. There's a way to kind of get him around that. You got to work a little more twist. I saw Kinlaw made a great spin move to get in there. Unfortunately, he was just a little late as far as taking down Josh Allen because then he hit, I think it was Stephon Diggs for a first down on that same play. But you just, at the end of the day, you got to get home, and the defensive line did not do that, which is, it's tough. It's a tough ask, but you're in the NFL. That's your job. Go do it. And one of those guys is Arik Armstead. Go do it. He looked good as a run defender, but his salary is not paid as a run defender. That's not what he's getting paid for. He's getting paid for to sack the quarterback. And the guy hasn't even hit the quarterback in about 7 weeks. Arik Armstead has not hit the quarterback in 7 weeks. So that needs to be fixed. And that probably only gets fixed if you bring back Bosa. But he's the guy that's going to need to get these troops together. A lot may say that it could be Hyder that gets these groups together, and Hyder's not the team captain. It's Arik Armstead. He's the one that needs to make the play. He's the one that needs to make the sack. And until he does that, who knows how long this defensive line can last. And then with the secondary, what I noticed a lot with them, it was communication issues. Had about 2 busted touchdown passes up the sideline of the field, one on the left side, one on the right side. Whether you tell me it's Richard Sherman or not, I could care less. That's busted coverage, and that needs to get fixed up. And it seemed like Tarvarius Moore had a real tough night. It happens in the league. Not everybody has. I remember even when Sherman was at his heyday with Seattle, Sherman gave up like a 2-touchdown game to, who was it? It was a receiver from the Michael Floyd. It was Michael Floyd. Richard Sherman gave him like a 2-touchdown day to Michael Floyd when he was at his elite level in Seattle. So it happens to people. Tarvarius Moore, he's going to get better with experience. So, but it was just more so communication. You have 2 busted coverages that go for touchdowns. Like, come on, guys. And then on top of that, a lot of debate was, okay, run man, run zone, run man, run zone. They're running too much zone. It didn't really matter. Brian Daboll, he was in his bag as an offensive play caller for the Buffalo Bills. And when they did run man, he exposed the man. And he was able to draw a great play design that executed. When they played zone, Brian Daboll kept things in front of that cover 3 zone and exposed the zone. So instead of saying the 49ers should have did this in coverage, they should have did that in coverage. Just tip your cap to the Buffalo Bills play calling. It was great. It was a great play calling. Brian Daboll was fantastic. And no matter if they ran more zone, no matter if they ran more man, the Bills they were on it. And so I'm not going to say what they should have run. What I would have liked more, though, is probably rush 5 instead of 4. Josh Allen is a hell of an athlete. He's going to extend plays. So if you're rushing 4 a majority of the time with this personnel, you're probably not getting home. And maybe by rushing 5 every single play. Maybe by rushing 5 is you can have him step up in the pocket and then somebody else comes up that and finishes the sack. Or he steps out to the right. Somebody else finishes the sack. So that's what I think about when rushing 5, not necessarily saying, hey, one of these guys are going to win those one-on-one matchups. It's just another body in there. If he steps up, steps back, steps right, steps left, that's an opportunity for someone to get a sack, and maybe he just takes the wrong step. But if you're rushing 4, they're going to have 5 blocking every time. One person's going to get double teamed. Or if they keep the running back in, now you got 6 blockers, 4 rushers. I would say that's something I would have liked to see them change up on an every single play basis. Not so much with cover 1 or zone, because the Bills was in their bag. They knew what play to draw up at that point. They knew where the 49ers defense was aligning. So we'll leave it at that. I will say, as far as their secondary, they missed Emmanuel Mosley, Jamar Taylor, K'Waun Williams a ton. Dante Johnson had some good plays. But there was also some plays out there to where he was just standing in no man's land. Basically where the 49ers are this season, record-wise. He was just standing out there. He wasn't really flowing with the receiver when they were in zone. When he was in man, he was just getting beat on drags left and right. So he had a really tough night. Outside of about 3 plays that he played well on, it was a brutal night for him. So hopefully they get Emmanuel Mosley back for Washington. That'll help out a lot. Or else if I'm Washington, I'm just running crossers on Dante Johnson all day long, because he seemed to have real trouble on that. So let's talk about it. Playoffs. Macchiano says he believes the season is done, fellas. Which Could be. It could, if this 49ers team, how they can guarantee themselves a spot is by winning out. Winning out. You go 4-0, and then you beat Arizona. You get that tiebreaker over Arizona, because that means Arizona would have lost 3 divisional games minimum. They could even lose 4 if they lose to the Rams again. So that means Arizona lost 3 divisional games minimum. And then if 49ers go 4-0, obviously they would end up at 4-2 in division. So they'll get that tiebreaker over Arizona. That's how they leapfrog Arizona for a division spot. And Minnesota's not going 4-0. They're probably not even going 3-1 because they have Tampa Bay and New Orleans left on their schedule. So with those 2 games, no way in hell, no, you cannot tell me Minnesota's going to win those games with a straight face. They're not beating Tom Brady, and they're not beating whoever's at quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. Tampa Bay needed overtime to get by the Jaguars. They're not that good. They're not a playoff team. So I think Minnesota at best 2-2 these last 4 games. Arizona at best 3-1. And if that one's to the 49ers and the 49ers go 4-0, hey, playoffs. They're in. Whether that's a reality or not, that's the scenario that they're in. So, but if the 49ers go 3-1 over this stretch, that one has to be to either Washington or Dallas. That one cannot be, obviously, to Arizona. That one cannot be to Seattle. That one has to be to either Washington or Dallas. You could go 3-1 and still get in. How they were able to go in at 3-1 is Minnesota dropping 2 games or Arizona dropping 2 games. That's how they can get it, going 3-1 down the stretch. Now, either ask is a tough ask. 4-0 or 3-1. Both probably aren't likely. But with a play caller like Kyle Shanahan, he got beat yesterday. He got beat. But he's not going to get beat every week. With Washington, the next game, with Washington, their defensive line, it's got to be a lot of horizontal offense that we didn't see this game against the Bills. That's what it's got to be, because their defensive line is legit. Chase Young is fantastic. I still would say Nick Bosa had a better rookie season than Chase Young, but he's running away with Defensive Rookie of the Year, and it's not even close. So whether it happens or not, we'll see. We'll see. We know Shanahan's probably going to win 2 of these games. I think realistically 2 of these games. So it's going to be on the team and the coaching to pick up the other 2 and go 4-0 and make the playoffs. And so Spontaneous Comment says, I just want a good draft pick now. Hey, me too. I want them to make it to the Super Bowl and get a good draft pick too. Although that's never going to happen for a team that makes it to the Super Bowl. But obviously without trading up. But here's the thing is, they're probably still out of position for a quarterback. Quarterback like Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, obviously, Justin Fields, obviously. They're still going to be out of position for those 4 quarterbacks without trading up. They're going to be somewhere in the 13 to 16 range if they miss the playoffs. If they miss the playoffs. So, with that being said, if they're sitting with the 14th overall pick, I'm trading that pick for Matthew Stafford. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. With his salary, it's not bad. It's not a bad salary. I think I broke it down in a hypothetical trade based on his cap number. The 49ers took him in this year. I think his cap would be 20, or excuse me, next year in 2021. His cap would be 20 in 2021. And then in 2022, his salary cap number would be 23 million. That's after all the dead cap and everything that the Lions would take on. That's 49ers would take on 20 million and 23 in back-to-back seasons. You're telling me you can get Matthew Stafford for 20 and 23 million dollars? Yeah, have the 15th overall pick. Take it, because Kyle Shanahan is someone that took a Matt Ryan to an MVP, to the Super Bowl. Can he do that with Stafford? Absolutely. Absolutely. Stafford's 32 years old. He's quarterback age now. Stafford could play till 40 easily. Easily. So he could have a 5-year career with the 49ers. That means 49ers still have time to figure out the quarterback after Matthew Stafford. That's something I would be interested in, because this is a winning football team now. Yes, I would love a rookie contract for a quarterback, because it's a huge advantage. It was a huge advantage with Mahomes, Russell Wilson, a bunch of these guys. So, but you know who Matthew Stafford is. Shanahan knows who Matthew Stafford is. He could run play action. He could throw downfield. He can make any throw you want at any angle you want. That's the guy I would be chasing. Whether they make the playoffs or miss the playoffs, I would still give up that one. Just because, ideally, realistically, they're going to be out of position to get those top 4 quarterbacks in the draft. Stafford won a Super Bowl and an MVP with his team. There was a comment yesterday from the booth. They meet with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan before each game. And that comment was, Nick Mullins is the smartest quarterback in the 49ers QB room. Do you think they're just saying that? Or Shanahan's telling them Nick Mullins is smarter than Jimmy Garoppolo, basically? Yeah, that's what it is. So that's, I'm not going to write Jimmy Garoppolo off. He could be, depending if Stafford doesn't become available for trade, depending if some of these veterans don't become available, depending what's on the draft board. Could be Jimmy. So I'm not going to write him off 100% yet. Doesn't Stafford have some injuries, though? Yeah. He's only missed like 10 games in the past 4 or 5 years, though. So that's still a lot better than what Jimmy Garoppolo has done over the past 3 years. But whatever you do from here, it's got to be an upgrade from quarterback, because a game like we saw last night, whether it's Nick Mullins, whether it's Jimmy Garoppolo, whether it's a rookie, it's going to be hard to come back from if you don't have an arm talent like a Matthew Stafford. That's going to keep the defense off the field. It's going to put more pressure on Josh Allen to make more plays. That's going to put more pressure on the Bills' offensive coordinator to dial up better plays. Yesterday, it was basically they were free. They were free to do whatever they want. And with the Alex Smith, like, yeah, that would be fun. That would be nostalgic. But, yeah, he'll cost less. But is Alex Smith going to put a team in Super Bowl contention? Probably not. Solid stopgap for someone. But I wouldn't expect him to put a team in Super Bowl contention that the 49ers should be in next year. So I would go with Matthew Stafford, because he's a whole lot better than Alex Smith. Alex Smith can't make every throw on the field right now. Stafford can. Alex Smith, he loves his checkdowns. And that's where he has a lot of success. And, hey, that could be successful with the 49ers, considering how much yards after the catch they get with these guys. But Stafford makes every throw. Alex Smith doesn't. When you have a Super Bowl contending team right now, you can't be cheap. You got to go with a quarterback that's going to get you the Lombardi. And, well, That's going to get you better odds towards the Lombardi, and Stafford gets better odds than Alex Smith, Jimmy Garoppolo, than Mullins, than a rookie. Stafford gives them the best chance now and the next 3 years than any of the quarterbacks I just listed. He gives you the best chance now and the next 3 years. See here. It's really tough watching Mullins struggle. Can't hit his receivers. Needed Jordan Reed. Shows his frustration when Mullins struggles. Yeah, Jordan Reed shows his frustration because he knows, they all know who Nick Mullins is. They're allowed to be frustrated with that. He definitely struggles to get to his second read. If you give him his first read, he can make some plays. If his first read's there, Nick, he's an NFL quarterback. He can make some plays. But it's getting off that first read and throwing it on time. Not getting off that first read and then finding the guy but throwing it late. That doesn't count. That's a good try. It's a good effort, but it doesn't count. Getting to that second read and hitting that second read on time, that's what counts. And Nick Mullins can't do that. And that's why he's a backup. He's good enough to be a backup because he could hit all his first reads, but he's a backup because he can't hit a second or third read. Sorry, but Alex Smith is just average. He's captain check down. It's okay if you want a game manager, but if a team is trailing by 14 or more, that's the thing with Alex Smith. It's he's a whole lot better than Nick Mullins, but he's not gonna, even though he's a whole lot better, he's not gonna take a team down from 17 points like they were at a point yesterday. So if Stafford's available, if Smith's available, whatever it costs, you got to go get Stafford, because if you go get Smith, you're basically saying, hey, defense, this year is all on you. Once again, it was on you in 2019. You got us to the Super Bowl. The job wasn't finished. Had some injuries in 2020, but hey, you were still playing top 10 defense. So we needed you on the Bills game. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, and we didn't have your back either. So, and then you would have to go in 2021 and say the same thing. Hey, defense, it's on you once again, and you would probably have to say that with the whole new defensive coordinator, because Robert Saleh, even still after that game yesterday, he's still going to get a job. Stefanski got blew out by Saleh in the divisional round, and Stefanski still got the job in Cleveland over Saleh. So he'll still get hired somewhere. What's your biggest takeaway from the game? To me, it's just quarterback. Gotta have a quarterback that can lead a team back from multiple deficits. Obviously, not everyone's a Patrick Mahomes. Everyone's not an Aaron Rodgers, but to at least keep it contending to a point to where you're in the fourth quarter and you still have a shot at a one-score game. We didn't get to see that yesterday because Nick Mullins isn't that guy. His right tackle, McGlinchey, doesn't help him in pass pro. Right guard doesn't really help him in pass pro either. So that's my biggest takeaway from that, as well as Josh Allen and that offense was just that good. They were just that good. There was no answer, and I can't even give an opinion on what they should have did on defense outside of rushing 5 players instead of 4 every play. Outside of that, they just called a hell of a game on offense on the Bills, and it was just one of those days. It happens in the league where sometimes they just have your number. Saleh does it every year to McVay. And so the Bills just did a hell of a job on executing on offense. Such a tough position the Niners are in cap-wise. Going to be tough to improve the team moving forward. Yeah, I agree, because even if you do move on from Jimmy Garoppolo, you still got to pay Fred Warner. You still got to pay Trent Williams. You still got to pay other, there's other contracts that need to be given up to current 49ers. But if you get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo's contract, that can at least, he would save $24 million if you make a trade for Stafford. Say you give up your first round pick. Now you're not taking on that first round pick salary. Stafford does cost $4 million less than what than the savings, so you have an extra $4 million there. And what I would imagine is anyone that signs a new deal, whether if it's a new player or a free agent, that 2021 salary is probably going to be really low, and then it's going to be inflated from there, just because of, especially if they're a current player. I think it's much easier to. Oh, so, okay, we're back. So I think it's much easier to do that with a current player than to do that with a free agent, because he doesn't know you guys. Why is he going to go out and sign a lower cap number for his first year? Um, but yeah, regardless, you keep Jimmy, get rid of Jimmy, it's still going to be tough. Where was the Debo playbook in the first half? Yeah, I kind of went over that. Um, that it definitely needs to be opened up more, and not just a game by game basis. I think they could have ran this against the Bills. Bills don't face the 49ers very often. They don't see Debo very often. You could have unloaded some few things, especially when you were down or going into the half. Going into the half, they gave up the Bills the ball really quick again, that allowed the Bills to get a field goal at the end of the first half there. So if you're able to hit on one of those Debo end arounds, that could have possibly saved 3 points being put on the board at the end of that first half. Um, so, but all right, guys, I appreciate you guys joining me today. I'm gonna go ahead and call it. It was a fun 36 minutes. I felt like I was rambling a bit, so I appreciate you guys staying on with me. Talk to you soon.